You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options. Facebook.com/TheOptionsInsider or via questions at TheOptionsInsider.com.
Join us now for the expert source for inside information on the options markets. It's time for Options Insider Radio with your host, Mark Longo.
Welcome back to Options Insider Radio, the interview program here on the old network where we welcome on guests from throughout the world of options and derivatives and proceed to pick their brains for the benefit of you, the listener. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-exciting, at least we hope so, Options Insider Radio Network. Hope you guys are enjoying the slew of conference content we have coming at you lately. First, the Swan RIA Forum, then all of the OIC conference last week, and that's not enough. We're back here in Chicago, but we're not at our studio, which is why it sounds a little bit different, listeners. We're actually at the Trading Show Chicago over here on Navy Pier, bringing you a whole slew of new guests, exploring a wide variety of new markets, including our next guest. He's a newcomer to the network. He is Lindsay Giannopoulos, the Director of Business Development over there at Ciara. Lindsay, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
And Lindsay, as we are wont to do with all of our first-timers here on the network, why don't you go ahead and give our audience a little bit of an overview of your background in the financial markets, as well as what it is you guys do there at Ciara.
Perfect. Yeah, Mark, I'm a Chicago native.
I won't hold that against you at all.
Love Chicago and everything Chicago, especially the sports teams. But I've been in the financial world for close to 19 years now. Started out as a trader and traded at the CME, traded at various prop houses in town. And then
what did you trade down there?
Actually, I traded a couple different products. I traded the S&Ps and NASDAQs for a little bit. Then I went over and traded fixed income for a little bit at a couple other shops, and then did a little bit of energies before I found that I needed to take some professional Prozac, which was find a job that was a little bit more
relaxing.
Relaxed.
I can empathize with that. I started off in the SIBO many years ago before getting allured to the dark side of content. So we all have our paths, our evolutions through the space.
So after trading, went to Trading Technologies, the ISV execution platform, and I was there for actually 10 years.
Really?
10 years. And everything was great, but after a while, I wanted a little bit of a change of scenery. I wanted to do something that was a little bit more than software. Then I was introduced to the head of product and sales at Ciara, Patrick Scattini, and it just seemed like a really natural fit. They were looking for somebody, a salesperson in the area, to handle their financial clients, and I was somebody that had a very well, established channel for them to be able to talk to people. So it ended up being a great mix of it. And then so being there for 2.5 years now, I've been able to really learn not just the technology, but also applying the trading to the technology, and also helping a lot of the people within our firm, because I'm literally the only person that's ever been in finance that's been working at Ciara.
That's probably not unusual in the crypto space.
Right.
Let's get to it. What is it you guys do there at
Ciara
Ciara?
Technology is a high-performance hardware provider, manufacturer. Based out of Montreal, Ciara has been in existence since 1984, building different types of servers for high-performance industry. So anybody that needs something, then again, so it's not necessarily, the financial industry. It could be also, cloud. Like I think our biggest customer is Akamai. But again, specifically, they hired me to be here in Chicago to be focused on the financial industry. So I'm working with a lot of the people that are looking for the best of breed when it comes to technology to help kind of build out that ecosystem. It's something interesting that people can have the most amazing software to run their applications on, their trading applications on, but if they're running it on a 2002 server, that all the things that make their application so much more accelerated, just kind of lose a lot of that. So suddenly you come to a company like Ciara Tech, who has the ability to put out different types of servers that are focusing in on tick to trade, and specifically other aspects like looking at pulling data in, analyzing that data, and able to spit out different signals or what's going on in the marketplace in a logical way, but as fast as possible. We're talking down to picoseconds.
That's interesting because we haven't traditionally, you're right, heard a lot of hardware talk on crypto outside of the mining side, right? There was, of course, that big mining boom, and everyone was just racing each other on the black market to buy bundles of NVIDIA cards. So there was certainly a hardware focus there. But outside of that, a lot of the crypto execution, shall we say, is still not up to par of traditional finance, where you're executing in sub-seconds. You're talking a handful of transactions can go up a second on the blockchain, so you kind of throttle there. Yep. The custody, all the transactions of funds could take minutes or hours or even days sometimes. So there's a lot of other bottlenecks.
Without a question. And I wouldn't say that. I would say the crypto space is something that, we have a mining server that, has 10 GPU cards in it that allow you to help, to do your mining. But I would say that most of our focus is, at this point, is equities and futures, and then also options also. So that's our really our wheelhouse right now. And I would say that we have different servers that really separate ourselves from a lot of our competition. Like the big boys like a Dell or an HP out there. They're big companies, but I think a lot of the difference there between us and them is the fact that even though we have 500 people globally and make close to $500 billion a year, we're also listening to the customers and really doing what we like to call is like a workload profile to be able to analyze exactly where there are bottlenecks within that server so that we can make it less jitter, less latency, and get this thing going as fast as possible, because speed, to certain firms and certain strategies is probably the most important thing.
So we're here, obviously crypto is the focus of this event, but it sounds like you guys are still playing a very full bore in the traditional markets. You mentioned the options, the futures, the core, shall we say, derivatives markets here in Chicago.
Yes, what Chicago has been made on.
So that is still, and I'm curious about that too, because we haven't had a lot of guests come through lately talking the quote-unquote race to zero, right? That's what everyone's always been talking about in that space. How is that arms race going? Are firms still really, fighting for that bleeding edge, spending, millions of dollars to shave, as you mentioned, like the millisecond, the microsecond off? Or have you started to see, just because the costs are getting so exponential, are they starting to maybe also shift to some more latency neutral strategies?
It's actually really interesting that you bring that up, because the race to zero, a lot of people have shifted away from that. But I think that you can look at a couple of the bigger trading firms in town, and they'll have a lot of the trading firms actually that I see, they have pockets of traders, right? They have guys that are still in the options pit. They still have guys that are point and clicking. Then they have the other guys. So there's a lot of these firms have different tiers of their different traders and their technology needs. So I work with all the traditional firms that I've always worked with in town. It's just, again, some of them need more, some of them need less. But the race to zero is definitely a very important role still in the marketplace.
So what is it that brings you to the trading show today? You guys have an announcement. You're here looking to reach out to crypto, kind of show the flag, maybe all of the above?
I would say right now we're focusing on just talking to our current customers, talking to new prospects, new trading firms, introductions to more crypto firms, and seeing how we can meet their needs. Exchanges. I mean, this is between this, the trading shows, and the FIAs are really our two main shows that we really go to when it comes to the financial world.
And let's go back to the core audience for a second, the core futures and options audience here. You mentioned the prop firms and the trading firms. That's a big market for you guys. It's no secret that market has been, shall we say, somewhat challenged of late the last few years. There aren't exactly orders of magnitude of new trading firms diving into the space. Right? So what's that been like for you, is trying to navigate those waters and trying to find these firms that are willing and able to spend on technology in this environment? It can't be easy.
Well, first of all, there's something I think is a very interesting way to kind of weed out who we're talking to. And first of all, one of the first questions I always ask somebody is, are you co-located at any of the exchanges? And if they say yes, no matter the size of the firm, at that point, it's basically their due diligence for their firm to take a look at us, because they're doing their firm a disservice if they're not looking at every potential area where they can make a couple more ticks, a couple half ticks, a couple quarter ticks. There's an area for that. And yes, I was trying to, in my prospect list from, 5 years ago, going through it, I found a lot of phone numbers that are out of business right now. But what ends up happening is a lot of those guys are going to different firms. So some of these firms that are, have guys that are making money, they're going to be finding a different firm to go to. And a lot of times we can find those guys as time goes on, as we continue going to shows like this. I think I've run into 3 people today that were former employees at shops that are now shut down.
But that said, this year so far and towards the end of last year, we saw a little bit of a return of volatility, a resurgence of, dare I say, a state of somewhat normalcy. I mean, it's hard to say when so many crazy macro things are going on. But from a volatility perspective, we're certainly not in the nadir that we were throughout all of 2017, right? Which for an options and derivatives area is certainly an onus for those firms. So has the turnaround so far of 2019, has that sweetened the waters at all for you guys?
Without a question. And I think that's for a couple different reasons. I think exactly what you're saying is where the marketplace is calling for more trading right now because of the volatility and because of the participation and just the way that the movements that have been going on in the marketplace. I think that's one reason. But I think another reason is because in the past, I think the overclocked server, I'm putting air quotations in the air, have kind of had a reputation as being not as even though they're running extremely fast, they don't have a reputation as being as stable as your standard servers. And where you may be able to make a couple ticks here, if your server goes down, then there's provides a lot of unknown, a lot of uncertainty, right? So, but because of the fact that we have I told you, we have a lot of employees and a lot of employees that are in our performance engineering group that spend time really scrubbing out new products, new motherboards, new CPUs, new hard drives, and everything that we can, not just for performance, but for reliability and robustness. And, in the last year, our failure rate has gone from, and again, because we switched CPUs and we switched motherboards, but our failure rate has gone from around 40% failure rate a year per server down to about just under 3% a year. So when people that were kind of burned before on this are saying, oh my gosh, our server burnt out and it took you guys a day to get back up and running, but in that day, we had a substantial opportunity that was missed there. Now, with this new failure rate and people hearing about it on the street, and when they were testing it, they've started to realize, hey, these guys are exactly what they're advertising, and there's that whole feeling of that this thing is not going to be working is now going to be a lot more stable, and you can rest assured. I think that sometimes when you don't have a stable system, be it software or hardware, I think that can really mess with a trader's psyche, I would say.
Funny, because you mentioned the term overclock, and you're right. When I think of a lot of things, there's a lot of connotations, that term. Stability is not usually one of them, right? You want bleeding edge, you want speed. I wonder if it's kind of a bit of a loaded term for what you guys, in your space, because it implies the bleeding edge of speed and what people want. It's sexy, brings them in, but also you're right. Oh man, this is gonna overheat and blow up in my rack, right? It kind of has that connotation. So I wonder if is it a bit of a loaded term for you guys? You kind of have to play there now, right?
Right. I mean, and the truth is that we do overclock our servers, but we think of that again with our team. We've done the ability to go in there and really stabilize that. But one thing that I like to mention, because again, what you're saying is they overheat and I don't necessarily blow up, but
I may have used a little bit of license there.
It does sound a little Hollywood when you throw that in there, but. What's interesting is that we've come up with our own, basically a water coolant system, closed water system within there that rests on top of the CPU that allows it to run hotter than usual because we have a liquid-cooled solution. And that liquid-cooled solution really makes it so that we can push these servers to the envelope.
Lindsay, this has kind of been a pleasure catching up with you guys here at Ciara, but we like to leave our audience with a little, wanting more, of course. So let's leave them. If you guys have any announcements you're making here at the show, or maybe you want to leave them with a little bit of a hint, a little bit of a tease of what's coming down the pike from you guys at Ciara. Now is the time, sir. The floor is yours.
Great. Well, I guess the first thing I would say is our goal is to provide the fastest servers that we can possibly provide with the lowest latency and with the most stable platform that you can be on. And in saying that, we've also been kind of venturing off into the other world too and looking at, hey, you know what, maybe we should look at a different kind of material to build these chassis out of rather than just steel for the environment, like our carbon footprint. So right now we're looking at making these a carbon chassis. We actually have one available at our booth. Number one, that helps out with the production, it speeds up production, lowers our carbon footprints, it's better for the environment, and fourth, it actually makes it cheaper for shipping because of the fact that the carbon is so much lighter. And with all the testing that's been going on, we've been finding that there's not an increase in heat, there's not a degradation in performance. So we're really excited about pushing this adventure forward.
Not just for race cars, for servers now too. Yeah, carbon, right. It's everywhere. That's the hot thing. Well, Lindsay, thanks for getting us up to date. If listeners want to learn more about all these developments, where should they go? What should they do?
They can reach out to me whenever they like at here in Chicago. I don't know if giving my email would be the best thing.
If you want, or just the website, they can check it out.
Yeah, the website is Ciara.com, Ciara.com, and then you know what? I'll even be crazy enough to give you guys my phone number. My phone number is 312-961-9415.
You may regret that. We shall see.
Well, you'll see. Yeah, we'll see how many listeners you get. And then make sure you mention Mark's name when you call.
There you go. You may get some crank. We'll see. But Lindsay, it was great catching up with you. I look forward to seeing how all this unfolds for you guys here in the coming months.
Thank you very much for having us.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/The Options Insider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.